this. Every drop, every taste, on the tip of my tongue, bend my nail, bite my thumb. Evidence won't clear my name. Baby, your presence will be the breath into the moment when I rest my eyes shut. Now I'm ready.
Welcome, everybody, to Two Goalies, One Mic, episode 145, brought to you by, where am I pointing? Right over in the corner, Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room. Over 300 different beers to choose from at 7 different Western New York locations. One open from 11:30 a.m. till 10:30 and later p.m. every single night, 7 days a week. And, of course, one of Western New York's only both kid and dog-friendly bars. Live music, entertainment, trivia nights, often at all of their locations. Please make sure you go check them out. Go check out their 24 Beers of Christmas Advent calendar. Absolutely great work there from the boys over at Fatty Beer Company. And make sure you go support whoever's behind the pine. If you bring your dog, they'll be sure to give you a dog treat. They always do with mine. So, and of course, Buffalo Logo Apparel, Buffalo's best spot for all of your Sabres, Bills, Bandits, and Bisons leads, as well as other local companies they support. All of the apparel that you could ask for, hats, shirts, hoodies. They have the works there. Make sure you check them out. I actually right here have the Buffalo NHL Shield Trucker hat ball cap there. I know. You can get that right at buffalogo.com. Or Fatty Beer Company hoodies at any Fatty location. Love this hoodie. Super comfy. But make sure you get over there, check them out. They just came out their blue collar line, as well as Brother Bill has in a collaboration with Buffalo Logo right now as well. So a lot of great stuff. We always post their links, so always keep an eye out for that. Producer Steve making his triumphant return The Two Goalies, One Mike. It's been a minute, buddy. How have you been?
I've been living the dream, man. Just happy to be living on the west side instead of in the south towns. Not a lick of snow where I'm at.
Yeah, I hear the South Towns got hit like really, really hard.
Oh yeah, it's in a mid-season form already, and it's not even December. It's gonna be I think I'm just reading these Gargle comments. He thought I was Coley for a split second. No,
Coley is on hiatus, much deeper hiatus than, of course, producer Steve, but he is still part of the show. Just always busy. So unfortunately, too busy for us. But we're here, bringing you the most up-to-date Sabres and NHL news.
Absolutely. Which the big hot ticket item for today.
Well, before we get into that, the first news we got first thing this morning. I know what we're supposed to be here to talk about. Well, of course, what's titled in the episode, but of course, let's talk about it. Patrick Kane signs with the Detroit Red Wings. A team that kind of came into the fold like the last 48 to 72 hours.
Yeah.
I don't really think that anybody fully expected them to be in it makes sense. I think that's a good Yzerman move. That's definitely a move I would see Steve Yzerman making. I bet you DeBrincat being there has a big part of that decision. For sure. So I thought Florida it was between I think it was down to us, Florida, and Detroit. Would have loved to have been a fly in the room between Pat and his agent just to know why it came down to why it ended up being Detroit really, and what happened because it seemed like Buffalo had so much steam for such a while there.
Yeah, I mean, that could have just been talk to juice the market. That could have been some genuine interest. We'll never really know. We weren't in the room. But yeah, I mean, my dad's an old school Hawks fan, so he was a little bit salty to see Patrick Kane go to a former division rival. That rivalry does still run deep with some of the older heads, and he's old. He's upwards of 70, so he's seen a lot of that brooding for quite some time. But yeah, I definitely think the price tag that Detroit was able to offer definitely put that offer at a little bit higher esteem than a team like maybe Florida, or even like a more cap constrained contender that could probably barely offer him $1 million and a half, despite his pedigree as, pretty much a no-brainer. Dude's going to be in the Hall of Fame, but he is coming off a very intense surgery that very few, if basically no players, have come back from to be, even close to 100%. So, there's definitely risk involved. But, I don't think anyone's going to be upset to make a $2.75 million before the 35th birthday. I know
I was surprised because I know I tweeted it out a couple of weeks ago, but I had some pretty solid information that Buffalo was one of the only teams offering a multi-year deal, which probably was pretty appealing to Pat. But another reason I think maybe it came down to Detroit is that keeps him a little closer to Chicago, right? Where he has his family.
Yeah, for sure.
So I imagine that probably played into it too. Not that Buffalo wouldn't have been an ideal spot. I wonder if the kind of downslide the Sabres have been in and the inconsistency they've been in might have played into his final decision. I don't know.
Can't imagine it would have helped.
Yeah.
But it's tough to say. But I do think it is ultimately a decent addition for Detroit. It does add some of that depth scoring that, for a team like theirs, where much like Buffalo, they're putting a lot of eggs in the baskets of young studs that are going to hopefully one day develop into elite players. It gives you a little bit of insurance in that, in like a middle to bottom six role, that you've got a guy that can feed somebody for a pretty goal here and there, regardless of how quick he might be on the puck still, or how, admittedly, how much he can be a little bit of a liability, back checking if he back checks. No disrespect, but yeah, his defensive numbers are not going to be what makes him a Hall of Famer. I don't think that's in poor taste to say. But no. It's the same reasons that it would have made sense for Buffalo. It makes slightly more sense for Detroit, just because I also just don't think, as far as offensive prospects go, I just don't think Detroit's pipeline is quite as stuffed to the gills as Buffalo's is. Yeah, I mean, we just now called up Kulik and Rose, and we've been clamoring for that for weeks.
And they,
There's the Matt Savoy of it all. There's all these kids that are like, could potentially be those fringe guys that just show up one day and are just knock the fucking pants off somebody. You know, the list is basically endless.
Another thing too is they, you know, we talk about Kulik. I mean, he makes his debut in possibly one of the worst showings this team has had all season against New Jersey, which was and then he's healthy scratch the very next game, which granted it ended up being a victory, which, you know, it worked out. I don't know how much more I can stomach this 11-7 stuff, 11 forward, 7 defensemen.
Yeah, I mean, if it were me, I probably would have just let Samuelson take a night off if he was still like a questionable game time decision, especially with Yoki Haru like no longer. I think he was just like out sick. I don't even think he was injured. I think he just had like a bad cold or a flu or something. Agreed. So like, you know, there's really no reason to, you know, overdo it with him, to be completely honest. So especially as he, you know, he hasn't completely fallen off the wagon, but he's definitely regressed a bit this year. I don't think that's unfair to say either. So, you know, if the kid needs to take a night off because he's a little banged up, let him take a night off. It's fine. You know, especially when you're still running with 8 defensemen on the team at the time. But yeah, I mean, let's not forget that I believe when JJ Peterka and Jack Quinn made their debuts, and I was at that game, it was against Tampa Bay. It was like right after my birthday, and they fucking laid an egg. It was like 6-1. It was brutal. And I just remember like just saying to myself in the stands, JJ deserved better than this. And, you know, we all know how his career's going so far. Like he's a couple goals away from matching what he did in his rookie campaign at like game 20. You know, he only had 12 goals last year. He's already at 9. He's doing just fine. And I think people were questioning a little bit, is he going to be able to be quite as productive with Quinn out of the lineup for several months? And I think he's put to bed that he can be perfectly productive just by himself. I think rookies having really upsetting starts for their very first game is kind of a Buffalo tradition. I mean, Zach Benson's first game in the NHL was the home opener against New York, where the score was flipped 5-1 in the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. That was a rough one to be in the building for. That was not a good time. Jacob Trouba gave him a warm welcome to the league with several cross checks, which admittedly did not get called like the one that he got called for the other night.
Yo, how about that before we
fucking soft.
I still have a few more thoughts on Pat Game before we get to that. Like, how about the fact that Trouba was even playing in that game against Buffalo to begin with, after he like almost killed a person on the ice? Like, I don't want to joke about a player dying like that, because we saw what happened with Adam Johnson overseas. Devastating. We don't want to like make comparisons or like, but the reality of it is, like, God forbid his helmet would have been off. Like, Trouba could have freaking killed him. Like, he could have literally maimed him, ended his career, or killed him. And like, on the heels of what happened to Adam Johnson, why on earth is that just a $5,000 fine?
And what league is this that we're giving Jacob Trouba the benefit of the doubt that there was no intent behind that? Yeah. Even if he is truly trying to get his stick out of the hands of Frederick, if that's what the story is, if that is what the angles are showing some of these people, there's a way to get your stick out of your hand without swinging it directly towards somebody's head. Like,
that should have been minimum 5 games, in my opinion.
It's fucking absurd.
Like, put it this way: if he ended up hurt on the play, is that just a fine?
No, absolutely not. But that's the problem with the Department of Player Safety is if somebody gets hurt, then it's something worth complaining. Then it's worth a suspension.
Agreed.
But
yeah, I don't want to move on from the Pat Kane thing quite yet. Where would he fit into that lineup in Detroit? Because I know they weren't off to the start they probably wanted to. I'm not sure of their record right now if you want to take a look at that. But like, where does he fit into that young lineup?
Well, I mean, Detroit's admittedly doing a little better than us in the standings, so they're definitely an above 500 team here. As of today, the lineup, according to Daily Faceoff, so take it with a grain of salt, not quite as accurate as maybe like a beat writer for Detroit. DeBrincat, Comfer, and Raymond, line 1. Bergeron, Kopp, Fabry, line 2. You could honestly sub him in there for either one of those guys. Rasmussen, Veleno, Perron, line 3. And then Daniel Sprong, Fisher, and Costin are your fourth line there, which admittedly is a pretty decent fourth line. I've never had anything bad to say about Daniel Sprong. Dude's a hard worker. If in a perfect world, I'd sub him out for Zemgus Girgensons in a heartbeat. People like to refer to Klim Kostin as the Klim Reaper. I think he throws some not quite Cromwell type hits, but he can definitely lay a dude down if he wants to. But yeah, I don't think either of those wingers in the second or third line are even a little bit safe. If Patrick Kane wants their spot, you're in my seat. Get up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And how much you would do for any team's power play if healthy. Like I've said it for a while. Like you can say what you want. On the ice, Patrick Kane is a winner. He is. You can't deny it. He has 3 cups, a Hart Trophy, a Conn Smythe. He's had success internationally. Like he is a proven winner. He brings 3 rings to your room, an immense amount of playoff experience. He's scored game-winning Stanley Cup game-winning goals. Like, come on, like that guy helps your lineup if he's healthy. Even at 35 years old, if he's 85% of the player he was 5 years ago, right now, that's still more valuable than half this lineup right now. It is, in my opinion, it is.
Yeah.
Like you can talk about defensive shortcomings all you want. Like, listen, you can't judge a guy off a season last year where he played almost the entire year hurt with the hip. And the year before that, I mean, let's be real. Chicago was essentially tanking 2 years ahead of time for Bedard. Like they were trading key players that Kirby Dach and DeBrincat just named 2 big ones. Like they weren't in the business of winning. And then you also didn't have Jonathan Toews playing either because he had taken illness. And just, I can't be sit there and believe that he would be the same player defensively in Buffalo or in Detroit now as he was in Chicago or the Rangers when he was hurt. And not to mention with the injury, I'm not saying he's going to be fine, but you talk about Nick Backstrom, that he's been having hip issues since 2015. It's not like something that just popped up. He had surgery and now his career is over. It's an issue that's been nagging him for years. He also had, I think it was a neck issue as well, too. Like everything kind of maybe corresponds with one another in the body. And like I'm no doctor, but I'm willing to let the guy play a few games to get his feet underneath him and see how well he does before I started saying, well, that's a waste of money. Because, again, 85% of the player he was 5 years ago is still very, very, very valuable in this league. Yeah,
I don't think anyone could argue that, putting him in the place of Victor Olofsson or something would make Buffalo worse somehow.
Victor Olofsson's been good.
He has been. He has
more assists than goals, and he has like 4 or 5 multi-point games.
Yeah, he's
he has like 4. He has like 4 multi-point games.
It took him a hot minute to get there, but he's beginning to make an impact on the score sheet, which is where he does make an impact. I will admit that it's nice to see. And some of those assists, those are actually pretty good heads-up plays. It's not just it bounced off my stick and landed on Alex Tuck's stick or something on the power play. It's some pretty smart setups. But yeah, I mean, at this point, it's woulda, coulda, shoulda. I think at the end of the day, I just think that Detroit, just given their lineup, I think they know pretty full well right now that they can't try to shore up the defense. They can hope their goaltending holds up. Like right now, it's Alex Lyon's still playing pretty freaking well right now. Ville Husso's pretty hot and cold guy. Sometimes he's really on, sometimes he's really off. So, if he's really off, you just got to run with Lyon and hope to God he doesn't get injured. So I think their strategy right now is just to try to outscore all their problems. And ultimately, I just think the philosophy of Buffalo has kind of shifted a little bit from, yes, we would love to outscore all of our problems, but there are going to be teams that we meet up with where that's just simply not an option.
Yeah.
And we need to have another card to play. And ultimately, I just think at the end, just from a philosophical perspective, if we want to use that kind of phraseology on a hockey podcast, I'm not sure if Kane fits quite as well in Buffalo as he does in Detroit, albeit both of them are pretty comparable teams, just where they are in their rebuilds, retools, in their respective Iser plans, whatever you want to call it.
Agreed.
So,
Another piece of news today, outside of course, what we're here to talk about. One last thing: Corey Perry scandal? ? Not really given a ton of information of why he was put on conditional on waivers with the purpose of terminating his contract, but there's been a lot of rumors. There was kind of put to bed during that press conference, but with the history of what's happened in Chicago, I don't think it's something that you can just not talk about. Corey Perry, for better or worse throughout his career, I think he's been a pretty respected player in the NHL, at least on the ice. I know, he's a guy that's played with an edge his entire career. 5 years ago, he probably would have been a guy you love to have on your team but you hate to play against. Your thoughts, not just on obviously the rumors revolving Connor Bedard, but what could this entail, and why do you think everything's just been like so quiet on what actually is going on?
Well, I think the first thing to say is just, let's be happy that this time around, when something fucked up happened in Chicago, they didn't sweep it under the rug and just let business as usual keep taking place. They nearly instantly addressed it by, making him sit a few games. And now they're immediately, while not announcing or telling us explicitly what's going on, because it could be anything, but whatever it is, it's definitely not good. Without getting too specific, they're addressing it as soon as humanly possible and getting this person out of their organization. So, a couple clicks for that, just for handling this radically different than you have historically. Again, it's impossible to say what this could be. As goofy as it was for a couple days to think that, Corey Perry's pulling a Shoresy and wheeling Connor Bedard's mom, or maybe Connor Bedard's mom's wheeling him. It's probably not true.
I'll tell you, I feel bad for Connor, but the memes, man, the memes have been great.
I mean, I think it's just like it couldn't have happened to a worse kid. Like,
he's the face of the franchise.
He's the face of the league right now. Like, he's gonna, he's like, pick it up. The torch is being passed from, the Crosbys and Ovechkins of the game to guys like, Connor Bedard and, years prior, guys like McDavid, eventually the torch gets passed and like, he's going to be the it kid for the next decade or more. So, I mean, yeah, obviously it makes sense that he's going to be the centerpiece of whatever rumors are unfolding, but what's probably the reality is probably just something pretty fucking bleak. I like that they're giving Corey Perry the opportunity to, whatever this might be, let him say it to the world if he ever wants to say it, whatever the hell this is.
I imagine he probably won't make it public because we can sit here and speculate a lot on what it was. We can choose to believe the rumors revolving Bedard. We can choose to believe the worst of the Blackhawks because of the past. But the reality of it is the new face of the NHL is playing on that team. Sid the Kid isn't going to be in the league for much longer. I think his years are starting to dwindle, or however long he decides to play in the NHL at the very least. Connor McDavid is still the present face of the NHL, but Connor Bedard is going to be right there with him. And what kind of bugged me is they let that rumor fester for 24 hours, more than 24 hours, before like they called some type of press conference. Like, I understand you had to do like your internal investigation, but protect your franchise player. Like, because that's an embarrassing thing. Literally, you have to imagine, man. Like, I hope he doesn't spend any time on social media. But you have to imagine, man. His inbox is full with people spouting off, saying ridiculous things, sending memes. You know what I mean? Like, protect your number 98. Like, that shouldn't have went as long as it did, and it's not fair to him to allow this to go on as long as it did. Because regardless of what happened, even if the rumors were true, it's not Connor Bedard's fault. Like, why is he being subjected to this? Like, at the end of the day, they should have been nipped in the bud immediately. They should have been said, hey, The rumors aren't true. They should have been done at like noon yesterday. The rumors are not true. We're like, I know they made their little statement, but about Corey Perry, but you got to protect your franchise player. You got to protect the face of the NHL because you don't want him to lose respect for management. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want a young kid like him to already start losing respect for the people that run the organization. And they have a very short leash, in my opinion, like the shortest leash of any organization in the National Hockey League. So a kid like that, you want to do everything you can to protect him. And I just think they sold him short here.
Yeah, a little bit, but to be a little bit of a devil's advocate, that's a very hard allegation to refute while also not having to overtly address it. How do you find in a corporate professional way to say there are allegations going around that one of our veteran players was intimate with one of the family members of one of our star players? Like, that would be an insane thing for a team in the league to have to release. Yep. And I get, so maybe it was more like I'm not going to dignify that with a response sort of thing, but at the end of the day, you kind of had to, which is what you did today, and there were plenty of Chicago beat writers who were just going, obviously, guys, these rumors are 100% false. Keep it moving. But it was like, I think it was just the on its face value of just being, just kind of a goof that, as with anything on the internet, people took way too far.
Yep.
Beat the dead horse and just wouldn't let it go. And to the point that it had to be a whole presser where it's like, he's being let go for much different reasons. This is not the reason. But
I don't know. Again, in my opinion, there had to have been a better way to just protect the kid. We kind of joked about it in our group chat. Take the under on shots on goal tonight for Connor Bedard because there's possibly no way his head's going to be in the game, whether it's true or false. You have to imagine that's kind of weighed on him a little bit, just all the bullshit that's been transpired for over 24 hours now.
Actually, I think he's going to score 5 goals.
You think so?
I think this is going to piss him off so much that he's just going to fucking decimate whatever team they're playing tonight. He just
like Gretzky circa 80, 87. Just literally goes out there and blows the
He's going to do a pair of Michigans. He's
over the net away.
He's going to do some Bizarro, knock it off the fucking goalie mask and then just pop it through the 5-hole as it bounces right at his feet. Kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
Just some goofy, Harlem Globetrotters hockey version plays tonight. I honestly feel like this is going to light a fire under his ass where it's like, I'm not a fucking joke. And I'm about to show you how I'm just going to make every one of your favorite players look like a joke tonight. I could absolutely see this just being nah, fuck that. I'm just gonna go run them up.
Yeah, right. Who knows? I mean, we'll see. Like I said, Connor Bedard's a very exciting player to watch. I can't remember the last time I looked at him. He was on pace for over 50 goals this season, which again is insane.
Yeah, disgusting. Absolutely.
At 18 years old. I think he's 18 or 19.
On that team, no less.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck.
Well, here's the thing. Up until this Corey Perry thing, they've done right by him. What I mean? You filled that team with veteran leadership, at the time, Corey Perry, Nick Foligno, amongst others. You have
Taylor
players.
Hall.
Yeah, Taylor. I'm not talk about it. I didn't want to.
His knee's injured, so
Yeah, but I just, for me, it's they did it right. They almost did it the same way when they brought in Kane and Teus. You know what I mean? They surrounded them with veterans so they could succeed. And, I wish we've seen a little bit more from that from Buffalo. I know we want to depend more on the youth of this team, but at the end of the day, I thought you could have used a little bit more veteran talent than what we already had on the team, rather than you went and signed Eric Johnson, who great on the blue line. Yes. But I don't know. I feel like the best way to develop young players is to do the way now what Chicago was attempting to do for a second time with Bedard, what Tampa did back when they drafted Stamkos and Hedman, for years, what Colorado did when they took in Landeskog and drafted McKinnon. So all these teams that really built through the draft, but also surrounded their teams with just, veteran players who have made deep playoff runs and know what it takes to win. I just always thought I wish I would have seen a little bit more of that in Buffalo. You can still let the kids play while at the same time bringing in guys who know how to win, whether it's Patrick Kane or not. You know what I mean? There's one total Stanley Cup ring in that locker room right now.
Yeah, that's a little grim. They once again brought up the stat that Jeff Skinner's almost played 1,000 games and still has not once played in the playoffs. Like, come on.
That might be like a record, right? Like, I mean,
it's got to be
happened to somebody else, but like 1,000 games and never make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's fucking insane.
Literally insane. How about the fact that Jeff Skinner's going to do it the same season as Kyle Okposo? And I mean, Okposo's how much older than him?
5 years, easy.
Yeah. Like, that's impressive, man. Like, Skinner's always healthy. He's always contributing. Like, he's always producing. With that one exception under Kruger, like, he has lived up. Some might disagree with me that he hasn't lived up to the contract, but I say he has.
Oh, yeah. And at this point, there are so many worse contracts around the league than $9 million for Jeff Skinner. Obviously, at the time, I've labored on this one to death. Like, they didn't it would have been a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation for Botterill at the time. Like, he was the first spark of life on that team that had Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart and just kept getting fucking just housed. Just not even middle of the pack, like bottom 10 year in and year out when you're supposed to have this new face of the franchise. And he comes to town and absolutely lights it up, and you're just going to let him walk away. They would have fucking crucified him. They would have killed the man. It just wouldn't have been, you just couldn't have gotten away with it. So I completely understand why they did it. And especially the year before he did get signed to that big deal, he put up 63 points, which was a match for his career high from 2 prior seasons.
And at 40 goals.
And then he signs the fat deal.
Yeah.
So, again, while obviously he may not be a $9 million player, I completely understand the circumstances that led to it being the way that it is. And I think at the end of the day, we haven't fully gotten our money's worth, but we've definitely gotten more than many naysayers have expected in this time. And last year, fucking 82 points. He was lights out last year. 18 right now. He's still pretty close to a point per game. He hasn't slowed down in a second. He's doing leading goal scorer on the team right now. Just barely above JJ Peterka, which again, I can never say enough good things about JJ Peterka.
I know how much you love JJ, and you're one of the few guys in Buffalo that have his Amerks jersey, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, I'll be wearing that next Tuesday. Ironically, when Kane may make his debut with the Wings.
They're saying he's going to play. Was it tomorrow night?
Oh,
I heard. I didn't read that, but I read it in a group chat, and I don't know why somebody would send. It could be a lie. I don't know. I found that kind of surprising, seeing as he hasn't practiced yet.
Yeah, I saw he had registration pending. So I figured they'd want him to practice a smidge. With
that could have been wrong. I don't know. You better look into that right now. Before we get to Devon Levi.
Yeah, get some skates. It could be possible. I think right now, before he actually connects with the team, it'd kind of be hard to say whether or not he's gonna And before this podcast even started, it wasn't until 45 minutes before the show that the team themselves finally confirmed with an it's official tweet. He's a Red Wing. So for 8 to 10 hours today, it was just Elliot Friedman and some other people said he's signing with the Red Wings. And
Kaplan, amongst other insiders. You have every right to believe.
You have every reason to believe that that's true, but you always like to see it from the team themselves to get the full story here.
So let's hit the peanut gallery here before we get to Devon Levi. I would have been excited to have Pat Kane in the lineup, but silver lining is it opens up a roster spot. That's about it for me. Tage and Quinn coming back. Yeah, that's again.
I cannot wait.
Some big things to be really excited for. We thought we heard significant time with the Tage injury. We thought that, you're thinking 2 months. It could be a month or less. And then Quinn was kind of expected back by mid-end December, January.
Yeah. He's still right on track.
Yeah. So
practicing with the team again.
Yeah. So my hope is end of by right by the new year is my hope for Quinn at the very least. So, and obviously now with what we are obviously all here to talk about, Devon Levi was recently sent earlier today. Not recently, earlier today. Devon Levi was loaned to the Rochester Americans, a team that you follow pretty passionately as well. How is he going to fit in there? Because we saw he was really fitting in well with the boys here. Growing strong relationships, adapting to the culture that has been built here in Buffalo. Hopefully going forward, like a winning culture, no matter who's in net. Let's be real. Do you fault Devon Levi for getting sent down to Rochester, or do you more so fault the team for not putting him in a better position to win, or I shouldn't say win, but be more successful to maybe the standards that were expected of him?
Well, I think he and Comrie have both said that they enjoy trial by fire. They just like to get thrown into it.
Yeah.
So I think with that kind of like bold confidence from such a young, raw talent like Devon Levi, that, maybe the management core, the coaching staff, maybe they, bought in on that confidence and that swagger too. It's like, maybe this kid really could exceed every expectation. Maybe he could be the 121-year-old that skips the AHL. And again, there were some games where he wasn't at his best, but there were also some games, much like with Comrie, much like with UP, much like with every goalie that's come through here in the better part of a decade, where the team in front of him just straight up hung him out to dry. So, there are definitely some games where it's like, yeah, maybe a more experienced goaltender with more time under his belt could have made that save. And then there are some times where it's like you've got 5 people standing and watching one player undress your entire skating core to just pick his spot uncontested constantly.
That's where it gets difficult for me, because I personally think he is ready for the NHL. People are going to disagree with me, because I think athletically he's there. Like I don't think there's anything disproving his athleticism. Maybe not for the workload. I think that we've had him on the show. I believe you were with us when we had him on. Listen, that kid is about as mentally strong as they come. Like countless comparisons to Ryan Miller that we've seen. And I'm not saying that he doesn't need the AHL. Any kid his age needs the AHL. Like, he wasn't a first overall pick. Like, very rarely do you see guys, especially goaltenders at his age, come right out of college hockey and go right into the NHL, like you said. So the AHL will help him 100%. Just by the very fact that the second he is eligible to play, he'll immediately be playing, multiple times a week. You know what I mean? Like, he's not waiting one start every 8 or 9 or 10 days. You know what I mean? And a 3 goalie rotation. It's going to help him for sure. But do I think the situation would have been different if you just had your 2 goalies set in stone to start the season and didn't have this 3 goalie nonsense? I think it could have been better for Devon, 100%. I do. And I think it could have helped you and you address the real issues in the offseason, which we've talked about I don't know how many times on this show, just a lack of defensive defensemen on this team. Like, Eric Johnson's nice and all, but he's in his late 30s. Like, he is what he is. He's not going to log you 20 plus minutes a night. You're not going to have Eric Johnson out there against the premier competition, the premier players in the NHL. Like, you want guys out there, somebody out there with Owen Power, maybe like Ryan Johnson now. Granted, he's going to make mistakes as a rookie, but like, you want guys out there with them that are going to, much like the way Samuelson was last year with Dahlin, a guy who's going to take his responsibilities seriously in their own end. And guys like Dahlin are going to benefit because they're going to be able to do more offensively because they have a guy that's solid on the opposite side of the blue line. Owen Power hasn't had that. He might still not have that. I don't know. We can't really try and put that much on a Ryan Johnson. As good as he is, like, he's still going to make mistakes. He has made mistakes. But the thing of it is, he's shown so many flashes of greatness so far in his young career, and just smart plays and heads up hockey, that you're willing to take the good with the bad with the good, the good with the bad. But what really still bugs me, and this goes back to the coaching is how is it that these guys are still playing so unaware in their own end, especially below the faceoff dots. That's what bugs me about this move. It's not that I say I don't think he needs it. I think he's going to benefit from it. But I don't think we ever had to really get here, because I think if you would have really addressed these issues in the offseason, this team could have been better off for it, even with the goaltenders they've had.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough situation playing three goalies, because it's pretty difficult for one guy to find their rhythm when, it's kind of a game of musical chairs. One guy each night, no one really gets to, if it wasn't for UPL standing on his head a few times this year already, I don't think they would have made this decision to ultimately give him an increased workload. But I do agree that, I don't think anyone that's watched Devon Levi play is going to try to say the kid does not have talent. He does have so much raw talent, but again, it is just raw in youth. And I think ultimately it's not that he's not ready. It's just that he needs to get those reps. And the fun thing about playing for the Rochester Americans is, one, he is the clear de facto starter by a mile. Devin Cooley and Dustin Tokarski. I don't think he's going to have to sit around waiting for his turn in net. I think the situation might be, if it's not a back-to-back, I'm in the fucking net. That net is mine. And the other fun part is the Rochester Americans play a very fast and loose style, much like Buffalo, but they are profoundly worse defensively. So he will be facing 40 shots every night, bare minimum. And that's not an exaggeration. Just the other night, I think their goaltender faced nearly, I think it was 49 shots. Like, this is not hyperbole. Like, I'm being serious. 35 to 40 shots every night.
Yeah.
So if you want to give him reps, getting shot on by pros night in and night out, I would much rather it happen now in Rochester, where the stakes are a lot lower. Because a couple bad weeks in the NHL this year, that could be the season. That could be the 13-year drought. That could just be another year where you could have come so close and just missed it by a point or two. We can't fucking do that again. Respectfully, there's too much on the line, and I'm sure he'll be part of the equation moving forward. Just give him a couple months in Rochester. With all likelihood, Eric Comrie's going to get hurt again anyway. So just bring him up. Bring him right back. Just bring him right the fuck back up. Dustin Katarski comes back from Jacksonville to back up Cooley. We're fine. And all's right with the world. But, let's give Comrie a minute to see if he can be a bona fide backup. If he is, that's great. You can stay the course, or you could try to move him to a team who is desperate for someone to stop a fucking puck. Edmonton. For just about anybody who's trying to leave Edmonton, or perhaps to Calgary for anyone who's trying to leave or any number of different teams with
goaltender issues.
Horrible goaltending issues.
I agree.
Or
UPL has absolutely earned his spot in net.
Yeah,
but I don't think I think that we could be looking at a very Omar Swayman-esque situation for a few years here between Levi and UPL. And I'm nothing against UPL, because I think he's played outstanding. We just need to make sure that this, much like we've seen him in the past, again, I say it with discretion, like, be consistent. I don't want to see 2 or 3 stinkers after this. Be consistent, like you have been, because we've seen him go on like stretches where he's been great, and then you see those stretches that make the fans, not these fans, not me, because I know he's a good goaltender. I know he's an NHL goaltender. He's showing it right now. But we've seen these same fans who are signing this stupid apology form now. Oh my God, get Levi to Rochester, this, that, and the other. It's like UPL has always been this goalie. You remember, when he first came in his first start with this team, he was maybe a year older than Devon Levi. And you need to give them both the same benefit of the doubt. I always thought UPL, even if it wasn't going to be at Buffalo, he was an NHL caliber goaltender. And at the very least, a very, very good backup. I still think he is. But I also do think that Devon Levi is the future of this team down the road. Once he is full steam ready to go, to be the guy, the workhorse for the Buffalo Sabres in net, whether that's next year or the following. But I think right now between him and UPL, we have a very good situation going forward in that.
Yeah, I would love to see that develop into a all Mark Swayman situation, because that's clearly working out in Boston right now. That's a very big part of their success that I'm not sure gets talked about enough with the Pasternaks of it all. I mean, obviously that guy's just he's a fucking maniac, but
yeah.
I
like this comment from Gar. I have zero issue with Dev going down. He's a total pro, and he will excel down there and dominate just like he has at every level he has played at. I agree. Like, he'll take this in stride. He will. He, again, at the end of the day, he's a professional. We learned that when we had him on with us, how well spoken he was. He, the way he's speaking, he's more mature. He's mature beyond his years, and just all the goofy rumors you heard about him coming out of college, it's all true. How seriously he takes his game. Like, if you listen to his Spit and Chicklets interview, like he, when he couldn't practice when he was hurt earlier this season, he was practicing with his VR setup in his house. He was still taking pucks. He's still probably going to do it. He still does that. Like, he really truly believes, and he plays with a certain confidence that you don't really see with kids his age, especially goaltenders. Like, that next puck mentality. Like, he doesn't let goals linger. He doesn't let a bad game linger. He's going to learn from this, and he's going to come back a much better version of himself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see it as a demotion, to be completely honest. I just think he just needs a different work assignment for a while. It's more of it's not even a demotion. I'm calling it a training program before he takes over management of the crease going forward. I just think he needs to. I just think he needs to cut his teeth, and I'm happy that there's a system in place where he can do it, still face some pro level shots, because the AHL isn't full of, just a bunch of bums. That there are a lot of incredibly talented players, trying to make their mark, make that next step into the shot. I mean, Kent Johnson's inexplicably in the AHL right now.
Yep, he was the first round pick.
Zero reason for that. Makes no sense.
Like Savoy still in juniors.
Yeah, Savoy still. Shane Wright's in the AHL. Kulik and Roseanne were just there. Like, there are people who can rip them with the best of them. And Levi is going to be facing the overwhelming majority of those shots. And I say more power to him.
I like this comment from Trevor here, front of the program. UPL playing up his game against top-tier teams like Colorado, New York Rangers is a boost. He just can't play down to lesser competition like we've seen in the past. Just like I said a little while ago. Be consistent no matter who it is that's shooting on you. But you also need your team in front of you to play like they did last night on a consistent basis. It's just the way it is.
I mean, consistency is a top to bottom problem for the team. It's you need every player to win, and it takes every player to lose. You can't play 20 minutes of hockey. You can't play 40 minutes of hockey. It's a 60-minute game. Show up when it starts. Stay till the end. And as they keep saying, just play your game, and good things are going to happen more often than not. You might get outclassed here and there, but it's those few games this year where they were getting dog walked, but also just kind of gave up on the fight. Those were the ones that made me so angry, because those were the games like 4 or 5 years ago where it's just like they know they're out, and they're just waiting for the clock to reach zero. They just don't care. Yeah. Whereas in years, these past couple of years, as some of these young kids have been developing, Dylan Cousins and whatnot, you'd still be losing games, but you're in it the whole time. You are playing like your life depends on that next shift.
Agreed.
And win or lose, pretty or ugly, you're going down to you're playing to the last fucking millisecond. Mm-hmm. And that's what we've come to respect, is that they're not going to just lay down and die anymore. So those couple of games this year where that did happen, it didn't sit right with me. So it's just, consistency's, it's a top to bottom thing. Everybody's got to be on the same page. Everybody has to come to play. Everyone's got to come to fucking win.
Yep.
Because that's the only thing, I don't want to hear about moral victories. I don't want to hear about finding a rhythm. I don't want to hear about any of these fucking pretty little phrases. The only thing that matters right now is W's. You got enough W's right now to be a 500 team, but 500 teams don't make the playoffs. That's the goal.
Yep. A couple of
playoffs, win a game. One game. Please, just one game.
Just one game.
God fucking damn it. Just one game in the playoffs. Just win.
Couple good comments here from Gar. We know the D-zone what the D-zone problems are. I look forward to him playing with decent D-core in Rochester. He will dominate in Rochester and force his way back into the Sabres lineup. I do agree with that. At some point, I think he will. And he'll make himself eligible for Rochester in the playoffs by being down there in case the Sabres season doesn't go the way we want it, and at least he can lead them to a Calder Cup. That'd be awesome because I think he would. I think he would give that team the best chance they have to win a championship without a doubt if the Sabres don't end up making the playoffs. And then also from Gara, 100% faith in Levi to become a 1A here someday. And then from Matt, what D-man would you want? For me, it would be Brady, Sky, big, mobile, and aware, or Pesce out of Carolina. That'd be great too, Pesce. Both of those would be great options in terms of finding a true blue chip second line pairing guy, especially I know we have some depth now in the blue line, depending on how much you want to rank those guys that you have in terms of depth, how good they are, and how beneficial it is to have them in the lineup. But you have a guy like Samuelson who gets hurt often. It wouldn't be a bad idea to be able to have Ryan Johnson maybe in your bottom pair. Not saying I want him up with Owen Power, but if you were to bring up a guy that can play with Owen Power that's more seasoned than Ryan Johnson, how good is it to have that guy on your third pairing that can come in a moment's notice and play with Owen or play with Darlene like that? Or maybe it's Sammy that goes down to the third pairing. Who knows? Finding a guy like that would be great, and I think it'd be beneficial to this team. I think it should be the number one thing on Kevin Adams' to-do list from right now to the end of to the deadline is finding a blue chip defenseman finally.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's quite a blue chip, but I wouldn't mind trying to take a flyer onto Zadorov if he's trying to get himself out of Calgary there.
Zadorov, we know how hard that guy hits. We know he's not. Here's one thing about Zadorov: the shit that happens in front of our net won't happen in front of our net when he's on the ice. That's for sure.
Absolutely not. And if
not
you want to,
our goalies are getting abused, but they get screened a lot. Our goalies don't see a ton of pucks on the norm. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to see the puck through a lot of screens. It's tough to track pucks when you have that many bodies in front of you. I'll tell you right now, when Zadorov's on the ice, those bodies are getting moved. He ain't gonna be puck watching. He's gonna be moving bodies.
Yeah, if you want to find a guy who plays the game in a radically the polar opposite style of Owen Power, it's Zadorov.
Yeah.
So if you want the epitome of a good cop, bad cop pairing, it's Power and Zadorov. And I would love it. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe, just maybe, Zadorov could finally teach Owen Power how to throw one hit.
Here's the thing. My final thought is you don't even need Owen Power. I've said this 100 times. You don't need Owen Power to throw big hits. Just play like you're 6'6". Box people out. Force your will on people. When you're standing next to a guy in front of the net, it's not even just tying up the stick or knowing that guy's there and being aware that he's there. Tie up the stick and just lean into him. You lean into him, a guy that more times than not, 99% of the time, Owen Power is the biggest guy on the ice. 90% of the time. All he's got to do is lean into these guys. Lean into them, tie up their stick, take them out of the play. It's literally all he's got to do. You don't have to lay. I'm not even asking for big hits because I know that's not his style. That's what I want out of him. That's what I need on a more consistent basis. Just not getting caught watching pucks, and you just take yourself out of the play essentially. Because if you're not blocking that shot or taking that pass away because you're watching the puck, guess what? You're leaving somebody wide open, or you're giving somebody an opportunity to have a scoring opportunity. So that's just my point opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do agree. Every single defenseman on the team is guilty of puck watching here and there, but it does kind of seem to. It just does seem to happen to Owen Power a little bit more often this year.
Yes.
Again, I'm just it's just what I'm seeing. I'm sure. And again, I'm not a guy that only watches the game using the eye test only, and I don't watch it just through bar graphs. I kind of incorporate. I like to let analytics inform what my eyes tell me, rather than let the bar graphs. I guess askew. Basically like.
We're not here to shit on analytics, but at the same breath, it's
I'm definitely not shitting on analytics. I think that both schools of thought should be, you can't just watch with the eye alone because you're just going to see a goalie get scored on, 4 goals go in and you're going to say that goalie's bad and not realize that so much more is happening to make that happen.
There's 3 things that went wrong before that puck went in the net.
Exactly. And you can't,
and personally, I think you can't blame any 3 of your goaltenders for the way the season has gone this year. And if you do, you don't know what you're watching. You really don't.
You just don't know puck.
Yeah. So
just don't know
a couple last comments here we got here from Gar. OP needs another off season in the weight room. It took Dahl a couple years to fill out so that he can play physical. Yeah, I agree. And again, Dahlin isn't an overly physical, violent defenseman. He can be when he wants to be, but he just plays big. He plays much bigger. He plays with speed, and he is hands down our best all-around defenseman. There is zero debating that right now. Zero debating.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. But I mean, yeah, Dahlin was definitely a little bit more of a shy, reserved guy. I mean, he also came in hella young, so he had so much more of a learning curve against him than a guy like Owen Power who could actually have time to develop as an 18 and 19-year-old rather than just you're literally the only good thing we've got. Congratulations, you're in the show. Same thing we did to Casey. It didn't really work out that great for either one of them. But they figured it. It took a little longer, but they've clearly both figured it out. So I don't know. Maybe Owen just needs a little bit, a little extra time just to get that swagger, just to remind himself that he is going to be an elite defenseman for years to come. And sometimes you can just get in someone's way and just do that thing where he just stops moving and just let somebody run into him, just fall, trying to drive your car through a tree, see what happens. You're going to ruin your car.
Agreed. I don't really have much left, but I do want to remind everybody this has been brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room with over 300 beers to choose from. And, of course, open 7 days a week from 11:30 a.m. till 10:30 p.m. and later. Live music, entertainment, and trivia at all of their locations. And they're always supporting local causes. I believe it's on December 19th, maybe. They're doing some – I might be inaccurate on the date, but they are doing a dog ugly sweater party at their Wurlitzer location for charity, like a dog adoption event. So make sure you check them out. Make sure you go check out their beer at their 24 Beers of Christmas Advent calendar while supplies last. They have beautiful, beautiful handmade ornaments. Go check those out as well at fattybeer.com. Fatty Beer on both Instagram and Twitter. We're always sharing their content. Pick up one of these awesome hoodies. Very comfy and very, very well priced. And, of course, Buffalo Go. Buffalo's best spot for your Bills, Sabres, Bisons, Bandits, and any local business. The Buffalo Logo is always supporting with their apparel, whether it's a shirt, a hat, a hoodie. Go check them out. Their blue collar line is fantastic. They just rolled that out this past week, along with their collaboration with Brother Bill. I think it's the Bleacher Slappers Club shirt, which is pretty cool. Go check them out. Buffalo Logo Co. on Instagram and Twitter and at buffalogo.com. With that being said, Steve, thank you for making your triumphant return for tonight's episode. I can't stress enough. And for those of you who are interested in who is playing that beautiful music at the start and end of every episode, that is Producer Steve's band Snakeland. You can find them on where? Where can you find them, Steve?
You can find us freaking everywhere. Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever you listen to music, we're there. Snakeland. The album was Pan American, came out this past July. And I think it's all right. I think it's pretty good.
Too. We're about to hear one of the singles from that album. This is the new adult contemporary from Snakeland. Steve, thanks again. This has been episode 145 brought to you by Fatty Beer Company and Buffalo Go. We will talk to you guys tomorrow night in the post game on Online Will Listen. So till then, boys and girls, we'll see you later. You have a fantastic night. And of course, happy freaking holidays. We'll talk to you later.
ups, but we felt the down. Streets are boarded up in this border town. All the small secret landmarks, shortcuts, and routes, crude maps that we drew to make sense of our lives. Babies men cauliflower, callous core, all say something different than they did before. Life's a sordid dove and the Holy Cross, singing as we go, so below. Burn down the old days, the memories, all that fire in my road. These stories quake round and grow so much longer than you know. Longer than you know. I could never tell you